This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot on my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling.
Hey, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy Phil All Caps, your guy Mr. Diehard Eru, and the one and only Mr. Apollo Guard Up Knicks. And we are back with another episode of the Knicks Nightcap. And I'll say this, guys. I know we've been a little bit inconsistent throughout the season. Things have been a little bit crazy for all of us when it comes to life, family, work, health situations. But we have been talking, and we want to be as consistent as possible throughout these playoffs. So we are going to try to go weekly. This week, obviously, we're on Thursday, but next week and the week after, it looks like we have Thursday games. So it'll be Wednesday at 8 p.m. So you'll see at least two of us each week, and we're going to try to be as, consistent as possible with the three of us, but we want to be able to give you guys the Knicks content throughout the playoffs. So we appreciate all of you guys that have shown us love throughout the season and continue to show us love throughout the playoffs. But before we get started, I do want to give a real quick shout out to the Bardstown Bourbon Company. They actually have sponsored this episode. They sent 2 bottles of Green River Bourbon for us to be able to enjoy. Like every other episode this season, the guys will not be sipping on what I'm sipping on yet because they have not gotten me the sample bottles back to ship to them. But Apollo did send it, so his should be here soon. So next week, he will be sipping on what I'm sipping on. Eru, I don't know, he might die with those things in his trunk. So we'll see what happens. How you boys doing today?
I'm good, bro. How you feeling?
Yeah, cool. I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, man. It's been a minute. How you doing, Eru?
I'm chilling. I'm just thinking about how hard it is to be consistent. I've been doing the YouTube and I was doing audio. Apollo too. We've been doing it for a long time, so it's not easy being consistent. Trying to get people together. People have families and stuff. So shout out to everybody that's consistently in front of a camera every day making content. You know what I'm saying? Because they make it seem like it's easy. It's not, especially if you have like family and stuff like that. So
yeah. And it's crazy because, our intention is always to do it. We love connecting with each other. We love, being able to talk Knicks. But life is just life sometimes, and we've all been thrown some pretty huge curveballs throughout this season, which is crazy because, in seasons past, we've sucked, and I've been available every single show. And this year, when I'm actually enjoying watching us play, it's been, so hard to be consistent. Crazy. But it is what it is. We're able to do what we can do. I'm excited for today's episode. In a few minutes, we're going to have Mr. Anthony MSG up to join us. And then a little after that, we're going to have Mr. Sean, formerly of the Knicks Wall, and Mr. Possible. I apologize. My mic was loud. So, guys, if you hear it now, let me know if it's good. All right, we good now? Mm-hmm. All right. This is an anomaly. I feel like I tune it in and I keep it the same as the week before, and then all of a sudden it doesn't matter that it's exactly the same. It's still horrible. But I'm looking forward to today's episode, having Anthony and Sean here, 2 different fans, 2 different perspectives, and then obviously our talk. So shout out to those in the chat. Shout out to Nostalgic Nick. Appreciate you. Shout out to Steven Toon. Appreciate you being in here. If you guys can, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you can, hit a retweet button. Let's get more people in the chat today, and get ready for these playoffs. But what do you guys think? How do you feel we ended the season?
To tell you the truth, man, I took a timeout the last month or so. I've been looking at the Knicks. Maybe even when I was doing the watch-alongs, I'll do maybe half a game, maybe a quarter of a game sometimes. Because for me, this season was not fun to watch, man. I just could not get behind this group, to tell you the truth. Last year I was all in. I couldn't, I was outside hanging out with fans and just doing all that stuff, but just this year, all I've been doing is buying merch and stacking it up. And just, to me, it just hasn't been the same for me, this season for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of been the same for me. Like I guess last year was such a great feeling, because we overachieved like so much last year.
We also had an identity too, we was like blue ball Knicks this year.
Right.
I don't know what we are. Even to this day, I don't even know how we're gonna play because they're talking about changing the starting lineup and all that. It's like, come on.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, we didn't have these questions going into last year. Even though we were hurt, we didn't have these questions going into the playoffs last year. So it's shaky. It's a little bit shaky. I mean, I'm not saying I'm down on the team. This is where I expected us to be when the year started. I knew it was going to be just the first year getting these guys together. The roster wasn't, the depth wasn't that great, so I knew it wasn't going to be ridiculous, but I didn't think it would feel the way it feels now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still confident in this team. Hopefully they can hit that switch and take off.
Yeah, for me, I'm not as disappointed as maybe you guys. I do feel like there are things that made me scratch my head throughout the season quite a bit, like towards the end of last season, I really, really thought that, regardless of the shortcomings, that we saw some growth steps when it comes to Tom Thibodeau. And I was hoping that we saw more of those growth steps going straight into this season. And I didn't see as much as I really hoped for when it came to certain things. Mikal Bridges as well. I was one of those people that I was like, come on, guys, it's picks. Like, we never use picks anyway. At least we got a really good player. And in some games, we got a great player. But then in some games, we got, what is this? It was a little bit hard to stomach at times. So for me, I'm not necessarily disappointed with the season. But I will say that there were a lot more games than I expected where I wasn't able to catch it live and didn't rush or feel the need to actually go back and watch it, where I was content with watching the fourth quarter or, the game recap and being like, it is what it is. So shout out to everybody in the chat. I see my guy Fritz, one of the best moderators in the game, Mr. Statistician, my guy Eddie Presti. He's like a brother to me. I love that guy. If you're not following Eddie Presti, you need to. Some of the best New York Knicks content with the rest of Knicks Twitter. And even though I think the Mets suck, he does great content for the Mets as well. So shout out to Eddie Presti. Juan Soto's still a buster. It is what it is.
That hurts.
And shout out to everybody else that's in the chat. We appreciate you guys so much.
Shout out to Eddie too, man. Eddie, I met Eddie in real life, and he's a cool dude in real life too, man. I got a chance to chop it up with him a little bit. Wish I could chop him a little bit more, but he seems everything that you see online, whatever. He's a little bit more toned down. What I'm saying, not constantly cursing, and like he does. But he's a chill dude, man. So appreciate that.
And I want to give a shout out. If you guys are following, there's a brand that I didn't even know about till recently called Dark Horse. And they just dropped this nasty, like really nasty Miles McBride hoodie and shirt. And it is just so dope. I'm trying to see if I can share that junk. It is seriously like, I'm trying to cop it. I'm definitely trying to cop it. So if you guys are actually watching this, Dark Horse, and you want to send this over to me, you let me know. But this is what it looks like. Is it showing for you guys?
Yep.
Yeah, that junk is fire.
But that's
so
dope.
Yeah, so that's a really dope Deuce McBride.
Knicks fans got the best stuff, man. I'm sorry.
They do. What's crazy?
So much gear that is like unbelievable, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's really crazy is if it wasn't for the Knicks, I never would have chosen to wear a blue and orange color combination in my life. Never would have wanted to put those two colors together in my wardrobe. But it just happens, and their merch is fire, so you keep wearing it.
And orange is my favorite color, and I don't wear it like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
the older I get, man, that's the only thing I wear is orange and blue. I just went out to like my sister's birthday party. I had on straight Knick gear, like I was going to a watch along or something. You know, it's like, yo, where the fuck you going? This shit is crazy, man. That's all I got now. Work clothes and Knick clothes. That's it.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Shout out to Brooklyn Butch in the building. Appreciate you. Shout out to AP. Let's see. David Smith said Trae Young name keeps on coming up in trade talks this summer, and he joined CAA. If Knicks flop in playoffs, I would entertain trading. No. I'm not even finishing that sentence. I appreciate you, but unless you're giving a super chat of $50 or more, that's not getting read in this chat room, sir. Can't do that. But salute to you, David Smith. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
but
like
we ain't talking that Trae Young nonsense.
Yeah, dual point guard backcourt, and neither one of those guys play defense. It's like, what are you asking for you?
No, he said trading Brunson for Trae.
Trading Brunson for him?
Yeah, bro. Like,
wow.
Yeah, right. Like,
that was bold. That was really early, man. That was bold as hell.
That was like, I haven't even had a first sip of whiskey yet, and homeboy's talking about trading Brunson for Ratoncito. Like
that's how crazy the season has been this year, though. Is that like, you know, we some fans were saying, oh, we can win without Brunson when Brunson was hurt a few weeks ago, and that's how many different seasons we've had this year. That's why I really can't really figure out what I'm looking at, because we didn't have like 5 or 6 different teams this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, because this far into the season, I would expect to know who we are as a team. Like, and what we really are capable of. But I don't. And that's the weird thing going into the playoffs is in previous years, I'd be like, nah, we don't have what it takes, you know, or this is going to be what's holding us back. But right now, I honestly do not know. I do not know what will be the holdback. I do not know how these players will fare or won't fare when it comes down the line. And that's the scary thing, you know, is I know that Brunson will be Brunson, you know, and we can rely on him playing, you know, hard basketball. But as a squad, I don't necessarily know what we're going to look like when it comes to round 1 of the playoffs. And we're going to talk about that a lot with Anthony, with Sean, with the people in the chat room. Shout out to JT Riddick. Appreciate you always. But that is the question is, do we really know who we are? Because even last year, like you guys said, even though that there were pieces that I was like, oh, you know, I'm okay moving on from this. We knew who we were, you know, completely. You know, we knew what to expect when it came from players like Randall and Dante and stuff like that. So I feel like things are a little bit still of a question mark. But without further ado, I'm going to bring up one of the guys who's been nothing but just genuine since, you know, I met him. And it's weird because, you know, like some people will see him for his, you know, amount of followers or how many connections they can get from this guy and how many games they could possibly go to if they're friends with him. I just like talking Knicks with him. And every time we've met on the other side of this screen, it's been authentic and genuine. So I want to bring up my guy, Mr. Anthony MSG. Let's try to boom. What up?
What's going on, guys? How you doing? Thanks for having me. Thanks for the very nice intro. The check is in the mail.
Appreciate you, bro. Yo, so all right. So before we get started, what I want to do, Anthony, is like I was talking to the guys behind stage before you got here. And in years past, like, and you still get it, but I don't think you got it as much this year. But the whole company man, like as if it's a bad thing, you know, persona. And it's funny to me because like I was telling them this season, I feel like you have been the most authentic and real about the things that have sucked this season than I've ever seen. And there's people that it's still never good enough for, you know, like you could be like, that game sucked. You know, Carl played like crap. Tibs, why did you make that stupid decision in the fourth? And then you'd be like, but let's go Knicks. And they'll be like, let's go Knicks. What a freaking company, man. And I'm like, what like, well,
I mean, to be honest, I think I've kind of always been like that. I think the first few years of us being good again, the flaws I saw maybe in the team or the flaws I saw maybe in Tibs, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't care as I pinch myself and orange and blue blood comes out. But like, we were so bad for so long where it was like, all right, listen, we're just happy to be here. Yeah. And I do think, like, in a way, still, like, I am still thrilled where we are compared to where we've been. Where this year at times it's like, all right, like, we're not a cute story anymore. We were a cute story last year. We were a cute story the year before. We were an adorable story in 2021. But we are not a cute story anymore. Like, I hope Madison Square Garden is rocking on Saturday like crazy, and it will be. But if we win Saturday, I don't want to see people celebrating outside the Garden like we won the championship. This is not a cute story anymore. Now it's time. I'm not saying if you don't win a championship, it's a failure. I'm not saying that either. But it's time to rock and roll now.
Yeah.
The cute story is over. And there is no Knicks fan more positive than me, but the cuteness, the adorableness, it's over. It's time to rock and roll.
And, you know, I love that. I love that take, because what it shows is like you can be optimistic, you know, especially when you are overcoming, you know, like Rocky 1, you know, not the greatest wins, you know, a little bit sloppy, you know, but by Rocky 4, Rocky 5, you know, you're like, all right, he should be winning.
Here's the thing. You have to crawl before you can walk. And the last 4 years, we've been crawling a lot, walking a little. But now it's really time to walk and probably even run. And I'll give you an example where a lot of fans, I felt, didn't want to take the steps. They just wanted a championship. So this is just a story for me. So it was in February, maybe late January, early February night in 2023. It was a Saturday night. The Knicks were playing the Clippers. Ended up losing that game on a Nicholas Batum three-pointer that set the game to overtime. Ironically, it was French night at the Garden, and Batum hits the big shot. Anyway, so that day, I can give you a million examples, but this one just comes to mind. So that day, I tweeted, "Big game tonight at the Garden." And somebody tweeted me right away, "It's not a big game." I said, "Yes, it is." I think at the time we were a game and a half out of the 6th spot. Of course, that year we ended up getting the 5 seed. I go, "Yes, it is. It's a big game. We're a game and a half out of the 6th spot, or a game out of the 6th spot, or 2 games out of the 6th spot." And the person replied back, "I don't want a 6 seed. I want a championship." And I said, "Dog, we haven't even advanced from the first round since 2013. We have to start somewhere." So I said, if we get the 6 seed this year, or even the 7, this is back in 2023, I think that's a great start. We ended up getting the 5 seed, beat the Cavs in 5, and unfortunately lost to the Heat in 6. And I really believed that 2 years ago. Now, 2 years later, you're seeing me a little bit more, you know, calling them out a little more because the cute story is not. So 2 years ago, it was cute. Yeah. It's not, like I'm reiterating this line, it's not a cute story anymore. So, you know, if we were a game and a half out of the 6th seed in February this year, I'd still be there rooting my ass off, but I'd be like, this is really disappointing. Yeah. Where 2 years ago, being a game out of the 6th seed in February was freaking awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny because
so I had forget my relationship with the organization. That was just maybe in me if I didn't have those relationships. That's what I really felt because of being through so much bad basketball for so long. Now we're in a point where, like, got to the 2nd round 2 years in a row. Yeah. You traded Dante DiVincenzo. You traded Julius Randle. You brought in Karl-Anthony Towns. You traded, 5 picks from Mikal Bridges. Now it's time to run the marathon. Now it's time to be playing basketball games past Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
It's different now. It's different now.
Yeah, I love that.
I got to chime in, because, there's a lot of fans out there that really did, they attack you all the time. Shout out to State. State is the one that came out with the whole company man thing. You know what I'm saying?
Dog, I pull up the State's liquor store and rob it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about that.
I pull up. I'm joking about robbing. So I saw your face get a little like I was actually being serious.
I know. I'm just saying, but that's what you said about
I've been to the liquor store, by the way. I've been to the liquor store, by the way, and I've done shows with State.
Yeah, me too. I've done the same thing. But what I'm saying about the whole cuteness thing, it's the truth, because that's what kind of like soured me about the season altogether. It's just that
this season,
this season,
yeah,
it's just like too much arguing about certain things, and I'm not seeing the game that way. I'm seeing it like, well, the Knicks already been through this already, so now we're at a certain point now where the like you said, like the cuteness is over. We have to like lock in and figure out how we're going to get past the next round, get to the next stage of this thing. So I'm just glad that you said that, because a lot of people look at you in such a way that like that you just a straight guy, that you just follow the Knicks and you're not gonna like question them for anything. So it's good to hear you say that.
And also, I think a lot of people that say that stuff about me also need to grow the fuck up, because they've never done business with an organization. You know what I'm saying? So even if like there's things I don't like, you're not gonna say certain things anyway if you're doing business with the organization. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't work for them directly, but it's still like that's weird when grown-ass adults are like, it's just weird. You know what I'm saying? I've always been giving you my honest opinion, even if people don't agree with it. And, I've been critical this year. I've been critical before. Nobody ever wants to see it. But the last few years, to me, there hasn't been a lot to be critical about. There hasn't. This year, a little bit more. So this year, if we lose which we're not going to lose in the first round, but if we lose in the second round, like there's not going to be a parade like there was last year. Last year we lost in the second round. There was a parade after. There was, it felt like there was a parade. So it's going to be a lot different this year.
Yeah.
And also, most people that say that stuff would love to be in my position. They all would.
True.
Everybody would want to be a part of the organization, of course. Why not? That's facts.
And I love the, different seasons, different expectations. So obviously there's different reactions, like we've been fans for a while. There hasn't been a lot to celebrate, so when we start having decent seasons, it's something to celebrate. But like we were talking this year, there was a lot of like head scratching for us as fans, like on paper and over the summer, we all expected a lot more than what we saw in some of these, scenarios, especially going 0-10 against the best in the East and West. Those are things that are worth critiquing, and you did. And so we love that. And so I want to talk about where we're at with the season. So what is your overall thought based off of that? Like, how do you feel like we actually fared with the highs and lows of the season?
I think we had a solid year. We still won 51 games. I think you should be excited. I think you should be fired up for Saturday. Still, we're in the playoffs for the third year in a row. I think that is awesome. I'm super excited. I'm just as excited for Saturday. I know the buzz around the city isn't what it was last year right now, but come Saturday, it is a new season. And don't get me wrong, the regular season does matter. But it was definitely a confusing season. Like, could we still beat the Celtics in round 2 after going 0-18 against them this year? Of course. But did it leave a sour taste going 0-for against the Celtics, 0-for against the Cavs? Of course it did. That stunk. It was terrible, actually. So definitely was a confusing team this year. It's funny because, like I said, we did win 51 games. That is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But at times we saw offensive explosions, especially like December. That was incredible. And then at times it felt like we couldn't even get a basket.
Yeah.
One thing that was very disturbing all season, it felt like, obviously in the NBA, it's not like it was in the 90s where, you won games 75-72. So in the NBA now, it's like, can you get stops in big situations? And it felt like this season, I think offensively, we got buckets in big situations a lot, but it felt like we just couldn't get stops in big situations. Going even, April 8th, at the Garden versus the Celtics. That game felt like the finals in there, and that would have been such a big win if we got that win. We didn't. It is what it is, but like we couldn't get stops in big situations. So that's what I need to see us do. I think the Pistons are going to give us hell. I do expect us to win the series in 5. I really do. I think we win games 1, 2, 4, and 5. That's just my guess. If it goes 7, it goes 7. I'll be ready. But we got to be able to get stops in big situations. No one's expecting us to, hold teams to 75 points. Yeah. But, when you're up 3 with a minute left, can you get a big stop? If you're down 2 with 35 seconds left, can you get a big stop? And that's what this team needs to do if they're going to advance to the second round. Get the third round, the second round. They have to lock in. Tibs needs to do a better job of making adjustments. Now, would I change? I get the notion of starting Mitchell Robinson at the 5, with Cat at the 4, and bringing Josh Hart off the bench. I'm totally for that. But Josh Hart just started every game during the regular season. You probably shouldn't do that. So, but one thing you have to do is Mitchell Robinson cannot play 18 minutes a game in the playoffs. He looks ready. He looks ready to go. He must play 28 to 33 minutes a game in the playoffs. There's no back-to-back. Most games, there'll be 2 nights rest. Obviously, game 1 is Saturday, game 2 is Monday, but game 3 isn't until Thursday, and then game 4 is until Sunday after Thursday. So Mitchell Robinson needs to play 28 to 33 minutes a game. Also, Josh Hart needs to be a threat on offense. Not saying he needs to be Allen Houston. Not saying he needs to be Ray Allen, but he needs to be able to knock H2O is my guy. He needs to be able to knock down some shots and be a threat. And if he's not, that should mean more minutes for Mitchell Robinson playing next to Karl-Anthony Towns if Tom Thibodeau decides to do that, which to me, it's a no-brainer. Although he did not experiment with it much since Mitchell Robinson came back. He's been back now about a month and a half. I think his first game back was that game in Memphis, which was a great win. OG ended up with 3 in the corner. But got to see much more of Mitchell Robinson because, let's be honest, our defense is not that great. Perimeter defense at times this year was great, but it wasn't as good as we thought it would be. I think, Knick fans were giving the team nicknames before the season even started. We have not seen wing stop.
Yeah.
We've seen, like wing tunnel, turnstile. So we got to see better defense. Got to see Tibs coach better, make better adjustments. But I'm excited. I expect Jalen Brunson to be great. Got to do a good job of getting Mikal Bridges involved, especially early. Get him his little mid-range shots, run some plays for him. Hopefully Josh can be a threat. OG Anunoby, he's been awesome, especially offensively the last few games and the last month of the season. And, Karl-Anthony Towns, he has to be a lot better. Deuce McBride's got to be better. But listen, it's an exciting time of the year. We went years and years without playoffs. So, 3 years in a row, it is awesome. And you should be excited. You should be excited. It's okay to have concerns too. And it was okay to have concerns a few years ago. I thought they were over the top, but now it's different. And I try to evaluate, year by year, literally day by day.
Yeah. And so we'll dive into the playoffs in a minute. But one thing you said, is, which kind of threw me for a loop, was that we did not see many of those Mitchell Robinson, Karl-Anthony Towns minutes. And the reason it kind of threw me for a loop is because when Thibodeau was asked, why we've struggled with some of these games, his answer was, well, we haven't had our starting center all year. And that was before Mitch came back. Yep. So he proclaimed that the plan was to have Mitchell Robinson as the 5 and Cat as the 4. Yep. So that was his own words. And then when Mitch came back, we barely saw that. So I was just like,
I guess the thought process is he just wants to get Mitch ready. Listen, Mitchell Robinson has barely played basketball. He got hurt in December of 2023, came back for a cup of coffee the end of the season last year and a little bit of the playoffs, and then hadn't played till March. So I understand the 18 minutes a game leading into the playoffs. I probably would have played him a little bit more with Karl-Anthony Towns just to see how they do. I'm sure they've tried it in practice a little bit, but definitely going to have to ramp up come Saturday.
Yeah. And so
just to add with the Mitchell Robinson stuff, man, what frustrated me throughout the season is that, like, since he said that, and since we now know that was the situation, why didn't he try to use Karl-Anthony Towns at the 4 throughout the season, just to not just to prepare Mitchell Robinson, but to prepare the rest of the players for Cat to be at that 4?
I think that's an easy answer, especially for Tibs. There probably just wasn't a 5 that he really trusted. I mean, at times, Hawk Porty got some minutes and was pretty decent. Jericho Sims, well, he really was never really decent in my opinion. So there probably wasn't really a 5 to really go in that spot. Although Hawk Porty played well at times. And I don't think your point is wrong, by the way. Like, that would have been a good idea. Maybe throw Cat at the 4, Hawk Porty at the 5. But I understand.
Well, we had Jericho Simmons for a little while too,
Right, that's what I said. But I understand, like, neither of them are Mitchell Robinson. So I get your point, but I also get why he didn't do it. But now it's time to do it now, especially with our defense being a tad bit lacking at times.
Yeah, and I know neither one of those are Mitchell Robinson, But my thought was like, let's at least give it a shot to kind of see what a lesser version of it could be, so that we could see how the offense will flow with, Cat being at the 4 instead of the 5, especially because we know that Cat's defense as a 5 is a little sus. And so being able to like at least see what he can. I'm trying to be graceful.
Hey, listen, thankfully Cat don't gotta guard Akeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, or Rick Smits or Shaq. Thankfully, you don't got to guard those 5s. Although 5s today are a little different because they're floating on the perimeter a little more, where 5s back in the day were just super strong and powerful inside.
Yeah.
My issue with Cat sometimes is not even that how he guards 5s. I just don't like how other teams see Cat in the paint and they can just attack. They just say him and they're like, oh, go at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's just. To me, that's just a concern that you got to put someone else there that's really going to deter that. And Mitch does that, and I guess
he does.
There's
times I feel better when you have a lineup out there of Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal / Deuce, Jalen Brunson, and Cat on the bench. As long as Mitchell Robinson's out there, sometimes I feel better about our team when that lineup is out there.
Yeah.
And also one thing with Cat. He's got to do a better. Listen, I get all NBA players. Well, I guess I'll use the word cry. Is that the right word? To the refs, Cat's got to do a better job, and I know he's not gonna. He's got every play is not a foul, and I'm sure guys get hit. I've never played in the NBA, but like you're not gonna get every single call. Sometimes you just got to play ball.
Yeah.
He cries almost every play. He's got to do a better job with that. He has to.
He cries loudly too, man. Because I was in the Charlotte game, and I was behind the bench, and I can hear him loudly screaming and crying it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Man. And so going into the playoffs, I'll round table this one, and I'll throw it to you, Apollo, then Eru, Anthony, and then I'll go. Playing the Pistons, obviously everyone's got different views of where we're at here. Who do you think your X factor is for us to win this series? Like, obviously we know Brunson's going to do what Brunson does. But who is your X factor outside of Brunson, Apollo?
X factor. It's got to be Josh, in my opinion. I mean, there's no wrong answer, actually. I guess it's just preference. But for me, it's Josh, because if Josh is playing the way he's supposed to, he can play multiple positions. He can guard a lot of different positions on the floor, and that's what makes him deadly. And the only thing that I'm worried about is how they guard him on offense. Are they going to completely leave him? Is he not going to take the shot? And that's my main concern. And if Josh can be aggressive, and even if he takes a shot, because like I say all the time, even if you think you're going to miss the shot, if another team thinks you're not going to take it because you believe you're going to miss the shot, they're just going to leave you wide open. You know what I mean? So at least take it so that it makes them believe that you'll take it. But when you hesitate, sometimes it kind of adds a little damper to it, because then he's not as effective as he should be as he normally is in those lineups. So I mean, for me, it would be Josh. But like I said, there's no real wrong answer to that question.
All right, what are your thoughts, Eru?
Yeah, I was gonna say Towns. Just for if he could show up and score and rebound and do what he does, that'd be great. But I really like what you said about just making the decisions type of thing. As far as the offense, if all the guys trust each other, take the open shots and stuff like that, we should be able to smoke this team. But that's the issue. A lot of times, OG gets caught looking. Mikal gets caught looking. Everybody's playing hot potato. Nobody wants to shoot it, and then they forget to play defense and rebound as well. So as long as the guys trust each other and stuff like that, like we should be able to smoke Detroit. So
yeah.
All right. What about you, Anthony? Who do you think your X factor is for this series?
I'm gonna go with the offensive production of OG Anunoby. If he can keep that up that he's been, I know he's gonna give you the defense hard. Yep. Pause. Oh, sure. But I expect a great defense from OG Anunoby, and I expect him to always give you quality offense. But if OG Anunoby gives you these massive offensive outpouring, then Detroit's got no chance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was going to be my answer, because I said it the other day when I was on with the KOT family, that if OG is able to, with Brunson back, even play at close to a glimpse of what he played when Brunson was gone, that changes who we are.
Yeah.
Like, it keeps teams guessing. Like, you don't want to double team Jalen Brunson because now OG's got a bag. Like, that to me is the highlight of the season, is that OG went from a decent, offensive player to, holy cow, now he's got a mid. Now he can hit you from the 3. Now he's got the confidence to drive on 3 players at a time. Like, he is a different player offensively at the end of this season than he was when he started this season. So for me, I think it's in tandem of him and Jalen, because Jalen's got to allow him to still play an offensive role like that. Like, if it becomes too one player focused, we become too predictable, and they could shut that down with their height and everything like that. But if OG and Brunson are that 1-2 offensive combo, then I think we're just way too much scoring power for them, and so that is my goal. I believe, and have since last year, this Knicks team, 30 and up assists, we are pretty hard to beat. Like, any game where we're under 30 assists, we become too predictable and teams are able to stop us. But if you look at most of our wins, we got 30 plus assists as as a squad. So that's the X factor to me, is letting OG be more than just a defensive man.
And another X factor to me is Jalen, and listen, if he has to, that's great. He doesn't need to be Teen Wolf to the last 2 minutes.
Yep.
You don't got to be Teen Wolf in the first quarter. Now, if the game calls for that, then I guess you got to do it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that movie in a long time, by the way. I need to. Y'all seen that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got to watch that. So I like to see less Teen Wolf early on in the game. Of course, listen, 3 minutes left, close game. Go crazy. Go crazy. But, and again, that he does let the game come to him. So if it's a game where ain't nobody doing shit offensively, go Teen Wolf in quarter 1. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I got to say, honorable mention has to be Mikal Bridges being aggressive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's.
I almost feel like you gotta spoon feed Mikal. Like, run plays from Mikal, cut there. I'm gonna give you the ball and you're gonna shoot.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't aggressively look for the ball enough.
Right.
Sometimes I want him to go give me the ball, because he has the talent to.
And especially in the playoffs, when the game slows down, his mid-range game should be extremely effective, especially in the playoffs when the game is slower.
Exactly. Yep.
The shots are there for him too. Is a lot of times I feel like it's hot potato. He'll get it, and it's like, why didn't you just shoot that just now?
Right.
He'll just immediately try to give it away to somebody,
which is crazy because it's honestly one of the most accurate and field goal percentage through the roof that we have as a team. Like, when he shoots the mid range, the numbers are crazy when he actually focuses on actually taking the shot. But I think that his confidence level, I thought, coming to New York and playing alongside his guys and, everything like that would help that confidence. But sometimes he just second guesses way too much.
Yeah.
So going up against the Pistons, everyone's talking about their physicality, and how physical of a team they are and how that could be what stops us. And so Mitchell Robinson in his in his interview, he said, it's going to be a dirty series. We're going to get out there and we're going to fight. And then Josh said something that I really liked. He said, we have to not just match that physicality, but exceed it. And I think that is the truth, because this is one of, in my opinion, when it comes to teams that have a little bit of grit and show a little bit of that 90s persona, they're one of the only teams that really do that, that give you that, bully Pistons kind of vibe from back in the 90s. Little bad boy Pistons of the soft NBA era. But what do you think that we have to do to match that physicality, and can that be a factor for us?
What do I think we need to do? I think you just got to keep playing your game. But also don't let them, if Dennis Schroeder is standing over you, if Isaiah Stewart is, got some antics, don't let them get in your head. We're substantially better than them. We are. Don't let them get in your head I think that's a big thing. I truly believe that.
Yeah. What about you, Apollo? What are your thoughts on their physicality and us matching it?
You just got to punch back. You know what I mean? And don't get low because you miss shots. Just continue to play hard, continue to play defense, but you got to punch back. I hate, there's been a lot of times this season where I've watched us get punched and we don't punch back. And we have way too much talent to not punch back. You know what I mean? And it's a mentality. It's not a talent thing. And a lot of people don't realize that about basketball, is that people think it's just about talent. And if you have talent with you don't have the right mentality, you're not going to do anything in the league. So I think that's just what it is. If they can stay together as a team and don't, like you said, don't let them get in your head, and understand that this is playoff basketball. We've been here before. You know what I mean? I don't remember the last time the Pistons were in the playoffs. So you have to use that to your advantage, and you can't let them come in here and try to punk you. That they're trying to come in with the tough guy role. They haven't been in the playoffs. Yeah, I get it. This means everything to them. So we're gonna get the best out of it.
It's like us in 2021.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So this means everything to them, but we can't let them punk us, because at the end of the day, that's what they feel like they can do to us. So as long as we can stop that the moment that it starts, we'll be fine.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Eru? And then I'll drop mine before the next question. We got like 3 more minutes with Anthony. So,
well, it's frustrating to hear that, because, up until this point, especially last season, we were the tough guys. We were the guys that were coming in and demolishing them. Not even just last year, just the last couple of years. Now this year, all of a sudden, where did we lose that identity? We had it. You know what I'm saying? So we lost Julius. People hated him. We lost DiVincenzo, and we lost Hartenstein. That was the 3 toughest guys on the squad. So, with them gone, we lost that identity there. So it's annoying to hear them talk about physicality and stuff like that when we just play hard. We wasn't playing dirty. We wasn't playing that street ball. We was just playing hard, and teams couldn't deal with that. So to hear them talk about it's going to be a dirty series and stuff like that, to me, it's just not. It doesn't seem right to me. But once the Knicks get it clicking, if they show up, the playoffs and take it up to the next notch, man, we should put these guys to bed, because they really shouldn't even be talking like that around with us right now.
Yeah, and honestly, that was hard for me, knowing that we were kind of building a not fake tough guy vibe. Like, we were actually starting to just get some of that bad boy Knicks vibes again, yep. And so for me, one of the hardest parts of the season was after Draymond ran his mouth and we're dapping him up center court after he pretty much goes on, and talks bad about Cat, and then gives like a double-sided fake apology where pretty much tells Cat, like, people die, deal with it. And that
was interesting.
Like, I can't stand that dude, but like, our guys are straight dapping him up after the game, laughing with him. And then what do I see 2 days later? Dante DiVincenzo fighting Isaiah Stewart, going to bat for one of his guys. And I was just like, yo, that is what we've lost. And seeing Hartenstein sticking up for his guys, I was like, man. And so going into this series, one thing Anthony said earlier is our guys get way too emotional. Like, when it comes to the refs, when it comes to a call that they felt was missed, and if they allow that emotion to get the best of them with this Piston team that's going to try to get in their head emotionally with the trash talk and the physicality and, the jacked up, kind of plays and fouls, that could be our downfall. Like, we are a better team than them. But to me, the thing that can stop us in this series is us getting too emotional and not playing the basketball that we know how to play, because we're letting them do what they do and we're taking it to heart instead of matching it or just tossing it aside and continuing to play. But that's my thought.
No, those are extremely fair thoughts, and I agree. I definitely agree, and I feel like, hopefully these playoffs go great. And if they don't, I think Knicks fans forever are going to be talking about January of 2024. And, but hopefully they go great, It's fresh slate come Saturday, 6 p.m., the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. And hopefully starting Saturday, we can stop talking about our X and our X being the 2023-2024 Knicks.
Nice. Well, before we let you go, we got my guy Jay Ellis in here giving you your flowers. He said Anthony's a big reason why I started potting about the Knicks before we went to YouTube. Salute to Anthony. So we appreciate you, bro. Obviously, you'll be in the garden enjoying the game. So we need these wins. I think losing one in the garden would hurt.
No, we gotta go up 2-0. And also, one thing I also want to say, I really believe, like, maybe the Bucks, especially if Dame comes back, which I think I heard he is, the Bucks might be a better basketball team than the Pistons, but the Knicks need this series. This series, if the Knicks win, which we're gonna, it's going to make them better. It's going to make them tougher. I truly believe.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we battle with the toughest physical team, that could help our mentality going into these other teams and show a little bit of chemistry before that next round. But I appreciate you as always, bro.
My pleasure.
And let's go, Nick.
Salute the Garden Saturday.
All right, have a good one, bro. Peace.
Later.
Peace.
That was our guy, Anthony MSG. Appreciate him coming through. Before we bring my other guy, Mr. Sean, up to talk Knicks, I want to give a shout out real quick again to the Bardstown Bourbon Company. They sent this right here. This is a wheated whiskey from Green River. So Green River was actually a brand that was purchased by the Bardstown Bourbon Company. And so what I love about Green River is right now in the whiskey scene, kind of like any other kind of scene, there's a lot of brands who are just trying to do something new, off the wall, different, which is great. You get some good stuff out of that. But with Green River, where they thrive is taking like the classic bourbon profiles and just elevating it and making it stellar. And I lost my camera, but I'm gonna keep talking. And so with this wheated bourbon, it is just absolutely delicious. It comes in at 90 proof. It's 70% corn, 21% wheat, 9% row barley. Let's see if I can get my camera back on here. This is crazy. There we go. I'm back. And so I'm gonna have a little pour of this, invite Sean up, and then I'll give you my tasting notes in a second. So once again, like I said, the guys do not have this pour because they did not send me their stuff. So they got some not so great whiskey right now. And I'm not even going to highlight it. So here we go. Let's invite Mr. Sean up. And if y'all don't know who Sean is, y'all sleeping. Here he goes. Yo, yo, yo.
What's going on, guys? What's going on? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bro. It's been a while.
For real. It has. So it's really an honor to be here, man. Thank you.
How you been, man? What's going on in life?
Man, you know, blessed, just making it through one day to the next. Knicks are in the playoffs in the first round series that, you know, we expect to win. I don't take that for granted. I don't take making it to the playoffs for granted. I don't take home court advantage for granted. I don't take being in a position where we can expect to win our first round series for granted, because for much of my life, we were not here at all. So I'm just enjoying the moment, really looking forward to the series. We're, you know, like 45 hours away from playoff Jalen Brunson. So, I mean, life is amazing. How's everything for you, bro? How's it going?
Am I there? Did I cut out?
Can you hear?
Yeah, yes. Sorry, I cut out for a second.
I think he had audio problems.
All right. Can you guys at least still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was muted. I didn't even realize I was muted. My bad.
All right. So while I try to fix this camera situation, I don't know what the frick's going on. Sean, do me a favor. Give me your thoughts on the season. We just heard from Anthony, and he was mad honest, you know, that we kind of expected some things that we didn't necessarily see. There were some, you know, head scratching moments, but what were your overall thoughts on the season?
I mean, overall thoughts, you know, like the season could have been better. I feel like we could have performed better against those top teams that we ran into. But, you know, I mean, 51 wins is nothing to sneeze at. I also understand that this is year one of this iteration of the team. So, you know, like things have to gel. You know, we had to start the season in a certain way where guys had to get their footing. And I feel like the way that we ended the season wasn't exactly what I would have wanted to see. But at the same time, that also could be exactly what we needed. You know, like we might have needed the wake up call at the end of the season going into the playoffs. It just put, you know, last year we ended the season super well, and then people were hurt. So ultimately, I'm just glad we have our health. Jalen was fantastic. I think that one thing that was really important for me was once Jalen went down, I wanted to see OG and Mikal be more aggressive. They definitely did that, especially OG. OG took his aggression to another level to where, like, I feel like his confidence is through the roof right now. Josh Hart had the best season of his career. Unfortunately, he kind of stopped having the confidence in shooting the basketball that he started the year with. But I expect him to start the playoffs with that same confidence, and I think that'll go a long way for us. And then Cat, you know, second best center in the NBA. Unfortunately, the top two centers in the NBA don't play much defense. And so, you know, I would like for Cat to, you know, lock in a bit defensively and, you know, give us a little bit more. We also weathered the storm of no Mitchell Robinson and got him to a point where he's ready to go for the playoffs. So the season wasn't perfect, but it was definitely still successful.
Yeah. And I would agree, you know, like, I think that there were definitely, you know, going into the season, I think on paper, we all got wicked excited, you know, like we all got wicked excited of what was coming in and what we thought we could be. And honestly, like those games against the top tier teams were hard to swallow, you know, like it's hard to, I'm shooting a wedding of a couple that lives in Cleveland and they're diehard Cavs fans. And during their engagement session, I talked mad trash about how we kicked their butts in the playoffs. And this season was hard to talk to them about anything about their upcoming wedding because they would continue to remind me about how much greater their season was than ours. And it was hard pills to swallow. But for me, I feel like having a rough season and finding ways to justify why it was rough is going to put that much more pressure on us having to have a good postseason. Because being like, hey, we needed time to gel, we needed this person was out, this person was learning how to play. Okay, but now we're in the postseason and there's no excuses, you know? So for me, this is where the rubber meets the road and the team needs to stand up and show, okay, Karl-Anthony Towns, you're not a rookie. So yes, it's going to take time to gel with new players, but you're also how many years into this league? Mikal, yes, you have a new role, but how long have you been in this league? You know, no excuses kind of moments when it comes to the playoffs. Tibs, you have an all-star cast now. We can't use Randall not having an A or Jalen Brunson not having a B and C player to use as your excuse for not getting past the second round of the playoffs. Like, now's rubber meet the road to see what this team actually has. So I'll roundtable this question, but do you guys think that with this current roster, we are actually an NBA championship team? I'll go with you first, Apollo.
Put me on the spot. Right now, NBA championship, I just think we need a little bit more work, like a little bit more tweaking to it. I think we have the pieces, but I don't think we're just ready for. I think it can happen depending on what happens with other teams. You know what I mean? Like kind of like the Celtics had a lot of injuries with teams that they played against last year. I mean, not to say that they wouldn't have won anyway, but it kind of made their roll to the finals a little easier than it might have been for other teams. But like I said, anything can happen when it comes to that. But I think we're almost there. Once we get the pieces, I can't say pieces. Once we get the pieces together the right way, which we already have, I don't know what's going to take to get them there. I don't know if it's players or other things that we might talk about later. But I think we'll be able to get there with just a little bit more tweaking, but I don't think we're there yet.
Okay. What about you, Ebru?
Well, from the start of the season, for me, it was rebounding, so I was surprised to see Cat rebound as well as he did this year, you know what I'm saying? So I thought that was dope. Tom Thibodeau was complaining that he didn't have Mitchell Robinson all season, so he kind of wanted him to be there so he can really implement what he wanted to do. But like you said, no more excuses. If for me, I would prefer more rebounding because I'm just a rebounding guy. I just think you need to rebound to win. But with the current roster, the way that they play, we can kind of play team ball where we can move the ball around. But guys got to trust each other. So as long as the guys trust each other, we can go as far as we want to go. But it really depends on the leadership on the squad and just how well they trust each other. Outside of Tom Thibodeau, whoever's on the court, how well they trust each other out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Sean? What are your thoughts?
I mean, me personally, I'm really big on, you got to show me the feet like I got a fetish or something. I'm not conceding anything to anybody until the time comes. So, I mean, while we're still in the playoffs, I believe we're a championship contender. I think that I expect us to beat the Pistons. I think against Boston, we got smacked around a couple of times. But they saw us once with Mitchell Robinson. And in that game, we looked a lot better. You never know. As Apollo said, you never know what goes on with other teams' health. We could be the team that benefits from that. Like everything, it's like the games are played for a reason. And now we're going to see, a full version of Mitchell Robinson. We're going to see hopefully the confident and aggressive OG. We're going to see playoff Jalen Brunson. And so I think that we have a chance against the Celtics. And I think if we can beat the Celtics, there's nobody after that we can't beat. Like if we beat the Celtics, am I still supposed to feel like we can't beat the Cavs? We run to the Cavs after that. So I'm going to be saying we can win the championship until somebody beats us 4 times in the series.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate that. I'm going to give a little shout out to Queen Ebony. She says she's jumping out the window. We going to the finals. And then Mr. J. Ellis, he's a little different. He said, I think we need more time, maybe a 3-and-D wing off the bench. I'm going to give my takes real quick after I give a little shout out to Green River again. This right here, if you're a whiskey drinker, pick this up. It's only a $35 bottle, 5 years aged. It's like a total fruit tray. It's like straight up chilling on a fruit tray. It's like fruit with honey. And I personally, I'm bougie. I love dipping my fruit in honey. Put some apples in some honey and it makes it that much better. So that's exactly what this is. It's like got, on the nose, it smells like some bread out the oven. And I love it. You get a little bit of ethanol, but I just opened it up, so that might change. But the tasting notes, once again, you get that honey, you get that apple, you get the bourbon classics like caramel and vanilla. And so if you're trying to like enjoy a bourbon, this is it. Whether you're like an actual full-on whiskey drinker or you're just starting, a wheated bourbon, low proof like this, it's only 90 proof. This is a great way to get into it. It's a great bottle to have on your shelf to be able to share with people, because those that are heavy into whiskey will enjoy it. Those that are new into whiskey will enjoy it. So this is a bottle that I'm thankful they sent to me. I will most likely always have one of these on my shelf because it's absolutely delicious. So cheers to Green River. Now back to the Knicks.
It's not that expensive either. It's about $40 from what I checked. 40.
Yeah.
I think the biggest bottles might be like $70. So it's you can buy it. It's not like $200 something dollars. You can
exactly
easily buy that.
Hold on, did you say ethanol?
Yeah.
Bro, I can only think of gas when you say that. So
there's always an ethanolish kind of like smell on some younger whiskeys, but it's all good.
That's how I don't know what I'm talking about. That's cool.
You sound like a whiskey connoisseur, man. You sound like an alcohol connoisseur. Like,
I am. I'm a whiskey. Yeah. I'm an actual whiskey influencer. So I have an Instagram that's just for like my whiskey stuff. I love it. It's funny because people are like, yo, you drink that much whiskey, you must be drunk all the time. I'm like, no, I'd never get drunk. I just love like actually sitting with the craft and finding the tasting notes and enjoying it and sharing with people over a pour. So yeah, I love it. So, but shout out to Green River. It's like he said, it's cheap. If a store's not trying to rip you off, this wheated bourbon should run you about $35 to $40 max. So it's easy to like have and share with people. It's a good one. But when it comes to the Knicks and the playoffs, I think we have the talent to be a championship contending team. And the reason I say we have the talent to become an NBA championship team is because all the pieces are there. It's how the pieces are used or not used that will change the outcome, in my opinion. I'm actually very thankful that Jalen Brunson was out for the amount of time that he was towards the end of the season, because we saw a whole new unlocking of OG Anunoby, which is the OG Anunoby we need to actually win a title. Like, playing on both sides of the court at an elite level is what we need, especially when you go up against teams like Boston, where their wings can do things in excellence on both sides of the court. So we need someone to be able to match that on the defensive and offensive end. So his bag exploded in that time that Jalen Brunson was gone, and he is a whole new version of OG Anunoby. He's a championship contending type player now. And so when I say we have the pieces and how they're played, if Tibs or if Jalen revert back to making OG just the guy that helps here and there, I don't see us winning. If they allow OG to be who OG's been for the last 3 months, then we have a chance. If Mitchell Robinson is able to play the role that Mitchell Robinson's supposed to play and not just be coddled for 18 minutes, then we can contend. If Mitch and Cat can get those minutes and we're not relying on Cat's poor defense to stop people, then we can win a championship. So for me, all the pieces are there, but whether or not Tibs builds a championship contending team in the playoffs is what we need to see. That to me is what really matters, is how these guys are used. Because we've seen players as Knicks fans, whether you're a pro Tibs fan or not pro Tibs fan, no one can say that there have not been moments where Tibs has misused players and their talents and their skill sets. So using the right skill sets for these players in the playoffs, to me, is key to winning a championship. So I think we can, if things are done correctly. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, because I was going to throw it back to you guys, like, because I'm looking at the numbers. The Knicks have great numbers all across the board. Everybody shot the ball well, great numbers, statistically wise, scoring wise and stuff. But, what do you guys think the issue is, like, with certain guys? Because we got one guy, he'll get hot for like a month, and then he'll revert back to his old self. And then Mikal had his hot moments. Everybody had their little moments throughout the season, but we haven't really had that, not too many times where everybody had it cooking. Sorry, New York City's in the background. What do you guys think the issue is with that, with the Knicks?
I think I don't know if I can say it's an issue or if it's just them not bottling what's right. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like they, like a scientist, he tries a whole bunch of different concoctions, and then when whatever works, like he just pushes it to the side. Oh, that worked. Like instead of like, let's bottle that and keep it. You know what I'm saying? Like what OG was doing before Jalen came back, that's like the OG we need. And if you remember last year, before he went out, the game that he actually got hurt, that was like his biggest game of the playoffs. And if we can have OG playing like that alongside Jalen Brunson, mixed with the bag that he's somehow developed out of nowhere within the past couple months, that's a really, really hard team to beat, because now it's not just about what Jalen's going to do. You know what I'm saying? Like get someone else the ball and have them get off. And like we said earlier, like trying to get Mikal going as well. But if OG can be who he has been in the last couple weeks consistently, and they go to it and they give him the confidence of saying like, listen, we're going to give you the opportunity to get those shots that you're looking for, because we know he wants it. He's been asking for it. That's why he got the contract and all that. So you gotta show and prove at this point, like you guys said.
Yeah. To answer your question, and then I want to hear Sean's answer. I think where the hiccups came is the way that the team is run, honestly. Because I feel like for certain teams, once they've developed chemistry, an answer like we just let the game come to us makes sense. Like if Boston or Golden State were to say, at this point, we just let the game come to the players, that makes sense. But to have a team that hasn't really played together and saying that we don't know the chemistry yet and we're not figuring it out, but then also still saying we just let the game come to them, I think there's too many cooks in our kitchen. Like there's too many players that are best with the ball in their hand. There's too many players that were a number 1 or number 2 option where they were before. So to have all this talent on a team and say, let the game just come to them. Well, no, they don't know how the game's going to come to them, because the way the game came to them previously was a lot more than their role should be here. So I think not having full-on game plans early in the season really bit us in the butt. I think expecting to bring this much talent onto a roster and just let it happen, what was a little much to expect. What are your thoughts, Sean?
I mean, it's tough, right? Because kind of between what both of your questions were and like what was missing, and then your question about Tibs and using people properly, it's like you had the understanding that this year one, that there's going to have to be some things figured out. The chemistry has to be developed. When you look at the Cavs, as well as they're playing right now, this is like their third year with that iteration of this team. We look at Boston, they've been together forever, but at the same time, it's just like you also need the guy to do it right. And so, can you have the confidence that Tibs is going to do it correctly? And I'm not saying that you can't. I feel like he's definitely improved as far as his ability to adapt over the years. But it may not be where you need it to be right now. And so, I think this playoff run is going to be very important. I think there's things throughout the season that we didn't necessarily try, so we don't have the data to be able to try them in the playoffs. But we'll have to see what he's willing to adjust to do. Like, does he start Mitch with Cat? How does it look when we get the Mitch Cat minutes? And then when we see how that looks, like, how does he respond to that? Like, who does he have run with the bench lineup? How does he shorten the rotation? And so I think that, we know the questions we have. And it doesn't mean that, if he doesn't get 100% on the test, then he's failed. But it's just like, how is he going to go about answering the questions? And I'm hoping that he can go about answering the questions in a way that can inspire, a reason to believe that he can figure out the problem.
Yeah. And so because I have a great question for you on that, that goes with that, but I want to give a shout out to Gamers Channel for their super chat. They said, leaving the show, keep up the good work, Phil, KOT fam all day. People say we need a 3-and-D player. We already have one in Pacome. And I agree with that. Here's the one thing I want to ask, Sean, because for me, I think that's my biggest frustration at this point, is that we are this far into the season and we have to say we didn't try certain things and we know that it's not going to get tried in the playoffs. Certain things that couldn't have happened. And so for me, as someone who was running my photography business and I had a whole bunch of people that were on my team, whenever they wanted to try something new, I would tell them, hey, don't ever try something new on a wedding day. Like, don't do that, because if you screw it up, you can't get that time back. Like, you can't recreate that wedding day. But if you want to try something new, do it on the engagement session. And if it doesn't work so well, you still have a lot of time. We just rebook them a free engagement session and we're able to redo those things. And that's my problem with how this team has been ran this season. And we were talking about it with Anthony MSG. It's like, with Tibs coming out and saying, well, we haven't had our starting center all year in Mitchell Robinson, and that's why we've struggled in certain areas. That blew my mind and frustrated me, because if we knew that Cat was trash that whole time defensively as a 5, like good offensively, but not good as a defensive 5, and Tibs is saying he was never supposed to be the 5, why did we not try that with a lesser version of Tibs when Huck Porty was healthy? Why did we not see some of those minutes so that the team can understand what it looks like to have an actual big and Cat playing, instead of now going into the playoffs and being like, we saw about 8 minutes of that at the end of the season. We still don't know what that looks like, yet that was supposed to be our game plan from the start. Yeah, Huck Porty's not as good as Mitch, but it still would have been a comparison to be like, yo, this could really work when Mitch comes back. This is going to be even more elite, so stuff like that frustrates me, where we go into the playoffs with those question marks. I don't feel like we should have to go into the playoffs with the question marks, especially if we're saying that the season doesn't matter as much as the playoffs, so we should have been testing those things from the get-go. So without that, my question to roundtable with everybody is, based off of that, where does Tibs stand? Like, do we think Tibs is the now and the future? Do we think Tibs is just the now and hopefully not the future? What are your guys' thoughts? Because for me, I personally am thankful for the growth I've seen in him over the time he's been here. But I also feel like we're at that point, that we've seen what we're going to see. And I'm personally ready to move on, not based off of how far he takes us in the playoffs, just saying that before. Like, I'm still ready to move on. Like, even if we make it to ECF, even if we make it to the finals, I think for the progression of the team to keep on moving, I personally think Tibs is ready to be in the front office and us bring somebody in with a new, fresh set of eyes. But that's my thoughts. I'll go with you first, Sean.
There's this big statement in basketball. If you ever play basketball for even 20 minutes, you're KYP, man, know your personnel. And so at this point, we know our personnel with Tibs. You know what his shortcomings are. Like the same thing you're saying about not trying. Like, it's like I've been complaining about that since the Atlanta series. Like, we didn't try Obi Randall all year. And I was like, why are we not at least trying it? Nerlens Noel can't catch the ball. We can go 5 out, see what happens. We never tried it. He started up for Peyton all year. Then we get to the playoffs. He wants to get to game 3 and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. Oh, whoa. Maybe you shouldn't do the thing that you should have been doing all year. And then he tried Obi Randall for a few minutes while we were down 25 on the road in the playoffs against Atlanta. And it's just like, bro, it's too late to try this for the first time. That's going to be something you get with Tibs. At the same time, though, I'm also cognizant of the fact that every coach has their warts. I just watch Tibs the most closely. So, I don't necessarily know who the solution is, but I agree with part of what you're saying, right? Like, if we go to the finals, brother, lock in. Tibs isn't going anywhere.
I know he's not. I'm saying personally, that's my desire.
I understand. And I think it's tough for me to say that I share in that sentiment just I'm so focused on right now and I'm focused on this season and trying to get through. However, if this season doesn't end in a favorable way, or like I said, if he doesn't answer those questions on the test in a way that inspires hope moving forward, then I definitely agree. It will be good. It will be a good time for, as you said, him to move into the front office and just to find somebody else. Because at the end of the day, it's almost like people always go to the Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr thing, but I mean, even JB Bickerstaff, Kenny Atkinson, the playoffs haven't happened yet, so we don't know what's going to happen with the Cavs. But it's just like you had a coach. This team was good. They were doing well. They were kind of hitting this glass ceiling they couldn't get past. You added another guy, and he was able to optimize the team in a way that the previous guy wasn't able to. And so, who is our Kenny Atkinson at the end of the day? Hopefully we win a championship. We don't have to find out. I'd rather be annoyed by Tips for the next 5 years. It means I get a championship.
I feel you. All right, Eru, what are your thoughts?
Man, I'm looking at his age, man. He's 67 years old. We got him signed, I think, for another 3 years. So he'll be damn near 70 by the time the contract is up. So, I mean, we're going to have to get rid of him eventually, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, this window that we have with Brunson and these guys, we're going to have a conversation, internally about what they want to do. I like that you mentioned Bickerstaff, because Bickerstaff, he got fired from Cleveland, but then he went to Detroit, and now look what he's doing over there. So sometimes, it just might not be the voice might not necessarily the voice is not being heard. It's just that it just time to try something different. Detroit needed to try something different. They got their coach, and things are working out well for them. Same thing with Cleveland. Cleveland already had their squad, different set of rules or different set of plays or different format of how they do things. It could spark the team. So I just think that's where the Knicks are right now, where even though, I mean, it's weird, man, because we got so many different new players too. So it would be nice to have Tom Thibodeau around for another season just to get it going. But at the same time, to just the tendencies that from Tom Thibodeau, the way that he conducts his business and stuff, maybe it's time for the organization and even the fans and stuff like that to get a fresh look of for our Knicks.
Yeah. What about you, Apollo?
I love Tibs, man. You know what I'm saying? I love Tibs, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if we lost to Boston. Because I'm not even going to talk about losing to Detroit. I don't even think we should talk about that. That'll give me a whole lot of anxiety that I don't want to deal with right now. But when it comes to Boston, I think if we lose to Boston in 4 or 5 games, I think Tibs is gone. But I think if we make a fight versus Boston, I think that gives him a little bit of fire to say, hey, look, we started to figure something out towards the end of the season. We actually did get some wins versus Boston that we didn't get during the season. We were starting to figure something out. I think that bolsters his case for staying if we push that series to a six game at least series. But I at this point, it's not about how good Tibs is. I just think it's about the locker room and are they bought into Tibs? And I think that's the bigger question to me, because so much stuff has come out this year. I think Tibs, I was listening to a podcast the other day with Alex Terrios and Andrew Claudio. Shout out to those guys. But they were talking about Tibs guys, and they made a good point. I forgot which one of them will talk about it, but there were a lot of Tibs guys on this team last year. And when you make the trade for Mikal Bridges and Cat, not that they're not Tibs guys, but in terms of guys that have fought through and like overcame and you didn't really expect to be much, like they fought through those barriers. Those are the kind of Tibs guys that we're used to. And, you know, Mikal's kind of really been successful since he's been in the league, you know, even Cat in a way. So they were saying that maybe the locker room might not be as for Tibs as last year's locker room was. But I think, like, you know, and to go into what Sean said, if they get to the finals, I don't think there's a question about bringing Tibs back. Even the Eastern Conference Finals. I think if we see the Eastern Conference Finals, like I said, if we at least get 6 games from Boston in the Boston series, I think we do see Tibs again. Just because I think that the front office, they really love Tibs. They treat this guy like family. But I also wouldn't be surprised if, because they treat him like family, they were like, listen, let's save your career. Come sit next to us in the front office and we'll find somebody else to do the job and still take your input on what we think this team should do.
Yeah.
But I think we're right in that middle point. I think whatever happens this playoffs will determine everything we're talking about right now.
Yeah. And I want to make one thing clear. Like, I'm not anti-Tibs. I actually have grown to like Tibs a lot more than I did years past. You watch some of my old shows, like my old Twitter was deleted because of how many like fire Tibs rants that I went on. But I'm not there. I personally have grown to like Tibs to the point that I don't want to see him get to a point where he coaches himself out of the job and he gets fired or let go. Like, I respect Tibs enough to want to see it be a beautiful, like, exit, parting ways. Like, hey, you did a great job, and now we're going to move you into the front office. Instead of, like, he's going down as, you know, a disappointment of a coach in the playoffs, and now he's getting let go. Like, I don't want that at all. Like, I want his name to be good. That's why I'm saying, like, even if he wins it all, like, I would like him to go out on top and exit, you know, delicately and nicely. But that's my thoughts. But a few more questions with Sean before he's got to hit the road. We're going up against the Pistons. All right. So we talked about this earlier, so I won't roundtable it. But who do you think your X factor for this series is, Sean?
Oh, good question. I'm gonna say it's Josh Hart. I feel like that's who they're gonna be leaving. He's gonna be, you know, in the Philly series, we saw Josh come out shooting the shit out of the ball. Whenever Josh has some time off, you know, he gets in there. He said he has his friend who he shoots at his house, and then he shoots at the facility. Josh getting a lot of shots up. He's gonna be confident in the jumper, and so he'll come into the playoffs letting it fly. And if Josh is able to shoot the ball and space the floor for us, not only does that one put points on the board, but it just opens up the floor for everybody else. I mean, right now in that starting lineup, it's 5 out, but like it's almost like 4 out, 1 in if Josh isn't going to shoot the ball. So if Josh shoots the ball, that opens up driving lanes for Jalen. That helps them not be able to double on Cat. It opens up everything else for everyone else. So I definitely think that Josh is the X factor in the series.
Yeah. And that was Apollo's also. And, for me, as someone who's been such a Josh Hart fan, I've been so confused these last few weeks of some of the timidness that he's had and lack of confidence, because that's one thing I've always liked about Josh was whether it was a great game or a subpar game, like it always seemed like he was at least confident, but over these last few weeks, it's like that's been shaken. So I'm hoping that that's something that he can work out before playoff time, because we need his grit. Like with a team that's going to play physical and hard, we need the hustle Josh Hart, like not the passive Josh Hart, because they're going to like try to bump us and bruise us. And we need a guy that's willing to sacrifice his body to get the ball and to grab those rebounds and to, get the court open for those, open plays down the court. So I'm hoping we see that Josh Hart. I'll throw this one around. Malik Beasley, he posted a photo of Shamet and him saying that Shamet was too small to guard him with the hashtag war ready. And then in his post-game interview, he said when they were asking like what he thinks about like do other teams respect them or whatever, he said that he believes that the other teams in the league fear them. And so they're coming in confident, like and arrogant and a little bit like feeling like we're intimidated by them. What do we have to do to contain those guys? Like, to me, it's important, especially in the Garden, to shut down that persona for them, to show them that their trash talk, their arrogance, all that stuff doesn't faze us. Because if they feel like it does, then they're going to highlight it once they get to Detroit, especially with Detroit trying to limit the amount of Knicks fans that can actually attend games. So what are your guys' thoughts on how we come in and how important is it to shut that mindset down with the Pistons while we get there? I'll go with you first, Apollo.
Like I said before, I just think it comes down to us not letting them get in our heads. And, a mixture of a lot of what we said, not letting them get in our heads. Josh Hart playing the way he's supposed to. OG playing the way that he's been playing the past couple weeks. And I also want to see Jalen trust that his teammates can make a big play. I think that without him touching the ball, which is something that I know is going to take a lot for you. If you're Jalen Brunson and you're on this team, like giving someone the ball and let them make in the final shot or to end the half with the last shot is something that he's not used to doing, because Tibs makes sure he gets the ball in every one of those situations. But just trusting his teammates, and I'm hoping that with a lot of the practice that they have now, which they don't really do much during the season, which is kind of odd, which I understand at the end of the day. But I think with a lot of the practice that they should have been doing over the past week and running over schemes and stuff, I think if they just play the way that they're supposed to and don't let the other team get in their head and punk them in a way, I think this should be fine.
Yeah. I love what you said about Jalen and allowing him to kind of just see what the game is calling for, even if Tibs typically wants him to be that guy, because I think people have a misconception of like what the star needs to do with that game on the line. Like for me, you see the huge contrast between a LeBron James who has been known to not want the ball in his hand in those clutch minutes, like constantly giving it up and not being the guy that like solidifies it for his team, as opposed to a Michael Jordan who gave it up to Steve Kerr to win a clutch game. Jordan could have probably made the shot, but he knew without a shadow of a doubt that Steve Kerr was open and they had a better chance of getting the basket that they needed by dishing it off. So that wasn't him deterring because the pressure was too much or because he didn't think that he could win the game, but he knew and trusted his team based off of what he saw on the court. And so I feel like that's what we need out of Jalen Brunson. Not the head down, gonna get my shot, Jalen Brunson, but the I'm going to score and help us win this game unless I see something that is a better option. And then I'm going to trust my guys. But also, the guys need to show that they're trustworthy throughout the series. That's also a huge thing. You know, like we talked about a lot when Randall was on the team before he had Jalen Brunson, like, oh, he never passed it in those clutch moments. Well, a lot of people weren't scoring either. So it goes both ways. But that's what I hope from Jalen as well. What are your thoughts, Iru, on, you know, the arrogance that they have going in? And how important is that to shut down at MSG?
Well, you know, just thinking about it, how to shut it down and stuff like that. I'm not really thinking it like that. You know, the Detroit, they're going to try to agitate us. You know what I'm saying? So the how you stop agitators is that you have to do your job and play basketball. You know what I'm saying? They're going to they're going to prey on little things. Like if Karl Anthony Towns is arguing with the refs and yelling and screaming, they're going to prey on those little things because while we're too busy being unorganized and distracting ourselves, they're down running down the court. You know, basically will hit a three, and now he's like rocking his balls like this on the court and stuff. Little antics like that, you know, that's what get those type of teams going, and then they feel a little bit too confident in themselves because they're doing that. You know, so what stops guys like that is just play hard, and just play Knicks basketball. The Knicks have to play hard, be focused, have the leadership out there, and do their job. You know, do your job and play hard. And you don't have to worry about those antics from Detroit, that the sucker stuff to me, you know, because every time if the Knicks are winning, you don't hear Malik Beasley, but if they're winning, they have a little run. Now you see him talking and you see him doing these hand gestures and stuff. So Knicks just got to play hard, and then we won't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you guys. Like, if we look. At the end of the game, we played them a week and a half ago. That fourth quarter, we weren't tough. We weren't ready. Also, like, they were playing for their lives, and we honestly didn't really care, clearly. And so you don't like that. But at the end of the game, they threw an oop instead of letting the clock run out. And I think that was a very loud moment. And I kind of watched Jalen Brunson. Like, he doesn't say anything, but, you know, he's a psychopath. I don't care what anybody says. Mm-hmm. Jalen Brunson, and I say this with love, Jalen Brunson is a lunatic, bro. He's not a regular person. And so I think he took that moment very, very, very personally, because they were trying to show disrespect. Like, they were going out of their way to show that they don't respect us. Mm-hmm. And so now at that point, you know, it's almost like when Trae Young rolled the dice on the court and everybody was like, oh, how do we not do anything? It's like, yeah, what can you do at that point? The game is over. We lost. Like, you can't, you know, but the next time we saw Trae Young, we smacked the shit out of him, mm-hmm. you know? So, like, that's how I want us to respond. Like, Detroit is trying to punk us. Okay, cool. We don't need to get into rah-rah and back and forth and pushing. And, you know, Malik Beasley at the end of the day talking about the bad boys stuff. First of all, this whole bad boys angle they're taking is hilarious to me, seeing as we just watched them like a week and a half ago get beat up and thrown in the stands, and they were crying. So it's just like they look like some very good boys to me. I don't know. They did not look bad at all. And then afterward, if you watch Malik Beasley through that whole fight, he does absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
He's in nobody's face. He's not talking. He's not doing anything. He is separated from the scene. And then he gets on Twitter after the game and says, yeah, bad boys for life. Hey, man, come on. Come on. I know when it's being faked. I know when it's being sold.
Like, bro, there were cameras there. You know that, right?
Yeah. There were cameras. We were watching you.
We can see you.
We can see you. You're posting this like you. This tweet that you're posting is right under the clip of me watching you do nothing. And then the very next week, he gets into it with Giannis, and of course that was friendly or whatever. But Giannis is like, "Hey, yo, he's not tough.
He's not tough. Yeah.
He's not tough. We know who you are. Come on, man." So it's just like the Pistons are trying to show the world that there's somebody. And I want us to show the world exactly who the Pistons are.
Yeah, yep. I love it. All right, Sean, we got one more for you before we let you go enjoy the night. What do you think? Do you think that we actually see any games where Mitch gets the start?
I would not imagine that Mitch gets the start unless, like, let's say, you know, game 1 or 2, we're getting killed on the boards. Or, you know, they're getting in the paint and doing whatever they want, then he might have to make that adjustment just out of necessity. What I do think is that we see a lot of minutes with that being the case. Like, you know, we see heavy rotation minutes with Mitch and Cat, not necessarily the starting lineup, but just maybe a closing lineup, you know, maybe for a 6-minute stint rather than a 2-minute stint. I think we get more of it for sure. I don't think we've played Mitch to his ability yet since he's gotten back. I think he's been saved for this moment. And I think that now that he can be unleashed, now there's no more back-to-backs and all that. I think we see a lot more of him and Cat on the floor simultaneously.
All right, last question. Who on the bench needs to step up in order for us to go far in the playoffs?
Hey, man, look, listen, man. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm very accountable, right? So it's like, if I stand on everything I say. And, you know, I will come out and say I was wrong. I will come out and change due to new information. A lot of times during the season, I did not want Landry Shamet playing basketball. Landry Shamet had the chance to do some things right now. Landry Shamet is shooting the shit out of the basketball. Shout out to Landry Shamet for the way he was shooting the ball toward the end of the season. If Landry Shamet shoots like that in the playoffs, he will live forever. I might get a 44 jersey. I don't even like that number. I might get a 44 jersey if Landry Shamet get in the playoffs and he's knocking down three threes off the bench. That can completely flip a game. The Landry Shamet who was going out there doing nothing and getting, you know, too little by Malik Beasley, that was a problem. However, if Landry Shamet goes out there and comes off the bench in a 10 to 15 minute stint and knocks down 3 or 4 threes, that could change the game, which can change the series. So it's Landry Shamet for me.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. Like, I freaking, if Landry Shamet can have a Max Strus type playoff series for us, that could be a game changer. Like, that can definitely be a game changer. And I say that now because I too had minutes where I was just like, why is this guy on the floor? Like, this is painful to watch. But it seemed like in those last 2 games, the confidence level where he's actually even talking trash, like, that's a new Landry Shamet. Like, where the frick has that guy been his whole NBA career? Like, straight up just chirping at the mouth after he makes those threes. Like, that's the Landry Shamet that we need to see come in the playoffs. Like, I would love a game to come down to the wire where Landry Shamet hits a 3 on Malik Beasley and, like, just has the whole freaking crowd erupt, like, because, you know, he changed that whole narrative for that guy. So I agree, man. I feel like Landry Shamet over these last few games has silenced me and many others. And I hope he can do that in the playoffs, because then his minutes will be well deserved. Well, I appreciate you, Sean. And like I always say, you know, we got to keep linking. Later on in the playoffs, we'll have you back. We'll talk more Knicks. Hopefully we'll be doing this for quite a while. I don't want the season to end anytime soon. Let's be playing into June, and let's see if we can get to that ECF and those finals.
Glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. Keep doing your thing. And yeah, let's get it, man. It's playoff time. It's time to make the run. Everybody lock in. Let all the, like, whoever you want to play, however you feel about the coach, who you want to trade for in the offseason, put all that to the side right now, man. It's playoff time. We don't have no time for that. So, you know, really happy to be here. Appreciate you guys. ImpossibleOP.com, everybody out there. You feel me? Get yourself a hoodie. Plenty of Knicks colorways and all that good shit. Positive thinking caps. Everything is out there.
Appreciate you, bro. If you want, put a link in the chat before you head out.
Okay, bet. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, that was a private chat. That was stupid.
We'll use it too. Don't worry about it.
I can copy it if you need, whatever.
Okay, yes, please. Yeah.
I appreciate you, bro. You have a great night.
Hey, you guys have a great one, man. Thanks for having me.
Later, bro. Peace.
Salute.
All right. We're going to open up that open panel, see if anyone wants to join. What do you guys thought on everything we talked about so far?
I did want to say one thing. So one part about this, the lineup thing that kind of makes it scary for me is when Mitch is in the lineup with Cat, it doesn't have to necessarily be starting, but whenever they're in the lineup together, I think a lot of the reason why I get scared, even with that lineup, even though I want to see that lineup, is because now the way the NBA is being played, they're going to guard Cat with a wing. And it kind of makes it almost impossible to run pick and roll with Brunson, because then there's no mismatch. You know what I mean? You're going to switch him onto someone who can probably guard him better than who was already guarding him. So I think that's a lot of the reason why you see those plays where Cat is just standing at the 3-point line at the hash on the opposite side of the court, because if you run a pick and roll with him, it kind of like they can just double team on Brunson. Now you do have Cat there, but it kind of just it's not as seamless as it would be as if he's being guarded by big. Now if they come out and the Pistons are actually using their bigs like Isaiah, and what's the other guy, Jalen Duren.
Yeah.
If they're actually using those guys, I can see us running a lot of pick and roll since the game does slow down and you might want to use a big. But when they are on the court together, that's something that I will be looking out for is how Cat is being guarded by the wings, the opposing wings. And to me, this year, he hasn't been the greatest with putting those wings in the post and just abusing them. There's some games where he does it, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of games where he does not. So that's the only thing concerning to me is I just want to see Cat get low in the post and just body some guys. You know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be anyone lower than 6 foot that you're having an issue with down in the paint at 7 foot tall, you know. So that's the only other thing I had to bring up.
So let's talk about lineups and matchups in a second. I just sent the open panel link, but luckily for me, not for you guys, Green River sent 2. So this right here, this is their Foolproof. And once again, what I love about this brand is a lot of brands are trying to put out like good whiskey now and try to charge you 100 plus 200. Like it's crazy in some of these brands, but these guys are trying to keep high quality whiskey at a low price. So this is 117.3 proof, 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley, and it's only $50. And it's a blend of 5 to 7 different barrels, and it's delicious. Like, guys, this is one of those bottles that seriously like threw me back for a $50 bottle. Like, it's one of those that if I was like, yeah, pick it up. No, this is like, get your freaking butt to the store and pick this up. Like at a $50 bottle, this is remarkable what you're going to get. And so I tried it before the show just to get my tasting notes down, and it's straight up like on the nose, caramel, like candy apples, tons of caramel, vanilla, some oak, and then like a smell of like those bourbon soaked cherries that I use for cocktails. And I'm not talking about like the maraschinos. I'm talking about the ones that like have been soaked in bourbon for quite some time. And so on the nose, it was absolutely fantastic. And then when I drank it, it was even better. It's seriously like your favorite caramel candy in liquid form. Then you get some of that rye spice that hits you in all the right ways. And then like hints of brown sugar and then some citrus notes in the background. And it is seriously one of the most like exceptional $50 bottles that you're going to get. Probably one of the best bottles I've had at this price point. And so this is one of those bottles that like keeps on going. So sometimes you'll have a sip of something and you're like, yo, that finished way too quick. Like it was good, but then it was gone. But not this one. The finish is incredible. Rye spice forward, lasts, and it's just really good. So this is one that I will have this bottle, and I for sure will be having a backup so that as soon as this bottle's done, I have another one on my shelf. So if you are a whiskey drinker or you're an aspiring whiskey drinker, this is one to pick up. Once again, it is Green River, and it is the Foolproof bourbon. Absolutely delicious. I freaking love this bottle, and we'll be having a lot more of it. Looks like we lost
You definitely like that better than the other one?
Yeah. So the Weeded's really good. But the Foolproof is just nonstop deliciousness. Like they're very different, but this one, for only being $15 more, just has so much more punch in it. Like it packs so much more flavor, and is so diverse. So yeah, I love this one. So
my son's birthday is coming up on the 27th, so we're gonna have a birthday party. So, for the dads, I'm gonna pull the dads to the side, and I'll have that bottle, and then we'll be over there sipping and stuff, man. So
yes, sir. I just put it in the chat. That's the Green River Foolproof. If anybody's in the chat and wants to join, I posted the link. So any of you guys want to talk your talk, you don't need to use the video if you don't feel comfortable with that. If you just want to make it more like a call-in style and just come and talk your talk, feel free to. The door is open for the next few minutes before we call it a night. We will be calling it by 10 o'clock because, well, we all got lives. And we love you guys, but we like sleeping and we like being with our wives and getting decent amount of rest. So let's talk lineups real quick, guys, because a lot of people I'm seeing are pushing this whole start Deuce over Mitch pitch right now. And I like Deuce and I understand the defensive factor. But every single time you've seen Deuce on Cade, he's gotten eaten up. Like, Cade is just too tall, too physical for him. Like, that's just not something that, in my opinion, is going to work out well. So for me personally, I want to see the Mitchell Robinson and Cat lineup and not the Deuce McBride lineup. Like, I think if we don't get what we want in seeing the two bigs, then I would rather not tamper with what we have and leave Josh Hart in there. So what are your guys' thoughts on the starting lineup?
You know, McBride, if there's anybody, I mean, people get annoyed with when I say certain things, man, but McBride is 6'1" or 6'2", whatever. So whatever defensive thing that he brings to the table, you know, it gets diminished when it comes to his height. So sometimes he looks excellent and he can kind of hide a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But against teams like Detroit, he kind of gets exposed a little bit. Not that he's not playing hard or not that he's not trying. It's just that the height around him just kind of diminishes what he brings to the table a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Even his shot creation, he has to shoot that thing a little bit higher, you know, because he shoots from back here. He has to shoot it higher, get the higher arch because there's too many, you know, taller guys and bigger guys at his position that he has to deal with, man. So, you know, I'm not a fan of McBride starting at all. You know, if anything, you know, going into next season, we might need to figure out what we're going to do with him because he's not a backup point guard either. You know, so you know we kind of need to figure what we're going to do there with McBride. Forward. So I'm not a fan of him starting.
Yeah, his height is a factor. He's 6'1". He would be defending Cade Cunningham, which had an all-star season, like great talent. He's 6'6". Like, that's not like 6'1" guarding 6'3". That's 6'1" guarding 6'6". You know, that does play a factor. So for me, I don't think that is a good fit as much as I like McBride. So before I have Apollo come up, I'm going to bring two to the stage. We got my guy Fritz up in the building, and we got S-God in the building. Let's see how do I get 5 people up in here? I'm trying to learn this. Give me grace. I'm going to do add item, camera slot. Boom. Add item, camera slot. Boom. Add item, camera slot. Boom. Add item.
Are you glitching right
now? Add item, camera slot. Boom. All right, let's make you smaller, Fritz. Let's get S-God up in the building. Guys, I'm learning on the fly. Give me grace. All right, boom.
It's top tier creation right here, man. Come on.
It is, you know, like this is weird. All right. Boom. All right, here we go. So Fritz ain't got his camera on, but if you're there, Fritz, let me know that you're there. But I'm here. I'm gonna let Apollo answer the question real quick on the starting lineup, and then I'll throw it to Fritz and S-God.
Regarding the lineup, I think I don't want to see Deuce in the starting lineup. I think as much power as we can have coming off the bench that's good. And I think even if you would have to put someone in the starting lineup on the bench. But I think there would be a continuity thing, and that's something I don't want to mess up, like the chemistry that the guys do have. I'm not sure if there's enough minutes played with us at full strength and Deuce starting. So I don't know if Tibs would even go to that. So, and I kind of feel like it's the same when it comes to the Cat and Mitch lineup. So personally, I think that what they should do is just start off the way we've been doing it, and just adjust accordingly based off of what the matchup is doing. I think we have enough weapons on this team to react to a lot of what Detroit can throw at us. So I don't think we should panic being the better team. I think we should just stay consistent at what we do right now. And if things start to flow in a certain way, we just adjust it on the fly. I think that's that's what I want to see most from Tibs, is adjusting on the fly when it comes to the lineup, not a game to game lineup thing like the whole Alfred Payton and Derrick Rose thing where you just wake up and decide not to play a guy. I would rather just try some things, and whatever doesn't work, you don't do it and you stick with the things that work. But I think we should just adjust to what they're doing because they're not the better team. So I think we should make them adjust to us personally.
Yeah. Here's the one thing I would say about not trying the Mitch Cat thing as a starting lineup is we know that Cat can be a liability on the defensive end. And when you have a guy like Jalen Duren, who is physical on the offensive and defensive end, I see Cat getting into foul trouble way too early, trying to guard him as the 5. Because you also know that they're going to try and do a lot of switch offs on Cat as the 5 as well, where he's then trying to guard Cade Cunningham or, Malik Beasley or whatever, which is going to then also cause more issues with, Cat and foul trouble. I feel like Mitch alongside of him prevents Cat from not being available in clutch minutes down the line when we need him. But that's my thoughts.
So just as a quick rebuttal, so who would be there for Detroit?
Therefore,
they got Tobias.
Yeah, Tobias. Yeah.
I don't know if I want Cat guarding him either. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Is if you run with that lineup, you have to have Cat being guarded by basically a wing, and that kind of makes it hard for our offense, like I was saying, because running that pick and roll, because then now you got Tobias on Jalen. So I think I would like to see him run at that with that lineup, but there's some concerns that I haven't seen work out 100% up until this point. So
yeah, and I feel like it's a catch-22. You win something out of that, you lose something out of that. Right. But for me, I'm looking at more so like it's not like Duren's one of those like Rudy Gobert type centers, right, where he only plays in the paint. Like I feel like he's a little more versatile when it comes to like his defense and offensive game, which could cause issues for Cat. And Mitch being there at least allows still pick and rolls to happen. Right. And also gives Cat a little bit of, height on Tobias to be able to shoot from 3 or post up. So it gives us options. But Fritz, right, what are your thoughts on the starting lineup, brother?
I see a lot of times people are talking about taking Josh out of the starting lineup, and that's the one constant throughout the year that hasn't changed. Josh is the starter. Tibs hasn't deviated from that. And plus, Deuce hasn't played to a level that made you question that at least this point of the year. If Deuce was just playing excellent, you can probably even make a case for that. But Deuce isn't playing to the level where you actually think Tibs would make that change.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna put Mitch at center unless just the first 2 games go horribly. So, yeah, I think it's a change that may happen if the series just doesn't start off right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Escad?
You got him on the screen? You got to get him on the screen.
Did he get off?
No, he's in the
Oh.
Yeah, he's not on the screen yet. He's still in the
no, he is. On mine he is. Hold up. Let me No? All right. Let me try again.
There he is.
I was still in the setup screen. So he was on mine. But what's up, brother? Appreciate you.
What's good, man? Thank you guys for allowing me to get on the panel. First time on here, man. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. Man, just talking about the Knicks, man. I do all the Knicks stream games and stuff like that on my channel. So the Man Cave podcast, anybody know about it? You know, guys in the chat, they know I'll be doing all the Knicks games. But as far as the Knicks lineup, like, yeah, I like to see Mitch in there, man. Because like I said, Mitch is the one dude that can play defense at the center position. The reason the Knicks be losing to these teams is that they be killing us with that pick and roll with Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns because he keeps staying back. He got to stop being a little girl and come up and make some plays. You know what I'm saying? Teams know that. That's why these teams are beating us. They're getting free open 3-point shots and they're making it. You know what I'm saying? And then on defense, they're not hustling back on defense. The problem is the Knicks they play with too much low energy. The energy is too low to start games. You know what I'm saying? That happens all the time. You see it. There's no excuse. Like I said, we've been off for a week. Watch against Detroit. If they don't start Mitch and we're going to start off slow again. You know, and the thing with Mitch, he gives us, like I said, he gives us that rebound, he gives us that shot block, and that's something that we need. He plays like a grown man out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jalen Durant, they can't do that stuff with Mitch. They could do it with Karl Anthony Towns and them other guys, but they can't do that with Mitch. You know what I'm saying? And people say Mitch, he don't have no offense, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great point though, because we're talking about all episode the physicality of Detroit, you know, and how that is something that they're trying to use as their winning formula, is that they're physical and that they're going to play gritty and dirty. You can't do that against Mitch, but you can do that against Cat, you know? So being able to have those two together where Mitch can be like, no, you know, that's not going to happen. It forces them to shoot from the outside. And if you look, besides Cade, they don't really have the best, like, actual scorers, you know, that can just take over a game. So it forces Cade to be a sole, like, scorer to beat us, as opposed to if Mitch is our 5, I'm going to test that, you know, like I'm going to drive on that. I'm going to try to get him the foul. I'm going to try to get him, you know, to guard me at the 3 because he's always a step behind. So I think that they eat up, you know, that lineup a lot more without Mitch. So I think that's a great point.
And then also if you notice, like I said, the problem all year has been we've been weakest at the forward spot between OG and Mikal Bridges. They don't get enough rebounds. With all the missed shots out there, they should be averaging like 7 to 8 rebounds. When RJ Barrett was on his team, he got 7 rebounds every damn game by himself. Did you see some of these games? These guys getting 1 rebound. How do you get 1 rebound at 40 minutes of playtime? And then, like I said, as a coach, Tom Thibodeau, he doesn't hold these guys accountable. He should be ripping into them on the sidelines. Get in there and get the damn ball, bro.
Yep.
Yeah,
if you get a lot of rebounds, we won't be teams won't be scoring 120 points on us.
Yeah, that's a big pet peeve of mine too, man. You mentioned RJ Barrett, you said?
Yeah, when he was there.
He was averaging more rebounds by himself than OG and Mikal together at the same time.
Correct.
Which is ridiculous. You know, so that's a big problem with the Knicks, man. But we can't do nothing about it now unless Tom Thibodeau makes major changes with putting Cat at the starter with Mitch Robinson. But you know, it's the playoffs now. So, you know, I think Sean mentioned that you know, we can't really, you know, Sean, I think Phil said something too. I think we all said something. You can't really make major changes right now. We kind of just need to just do what we've been doing and then just make adjustments as we go along, but not really deviate from so much what we've been doing all year, you know, because it's too late for it.
Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to Gregory because he's got a great point, which is my thought exactly. And honestly, for a guy like Tibs who doesn't really stray away from things that he's done before, it kind of frustrates me that he's strayed away from this, because when it came to RJ Barrett, he would pull RJ a little bit early so that RJ could rock with that second unit. Yeah. He needs to be doing that with Mikal Bridges. Like, he needs to be doing that with Mikal. Like, get Mikal off the court a little bit early, sub him out, and let him have a little bit of a fresh boost coming in against their bench and do what he's able to do. Because his mid-range is elite, and especially against the bench unit, he'll be able to pick them apart a lot easier than he can their starters. Right. So I think that's a winning formula, is pulling him at about 8 to 9 minutes into the first, let him recharge a little bit, and then have him come in with that second unit and just erupt, you know? So shout out to Gregory. Great thoughts. I love that. Appreciate you. What are your guys' other thoughts?
Well, shout out to that. That's a good point because shout out to Landry Shamet. He plays good with Shamet. That's one of his boys from Phoenix and stuff. So if he can come in there with the second unit and cook with Shamet for a little while, that could work.
Campaign too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Either one of them two.
Yeah. The only other thing I was gonna add to what S guy said is that energy thing. Our starting energy thing that's been a thing for a while. Like that's not just this year. And I don't know what needs to be addressed. I don't want to blame the coach for everything, but it comes with your job. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to have these guys prepared, not just physically, not just with the plays, but mentally. You got to have these guys ready for this intensity. And there's been too many times, even in the past playoff seasons, series that we've had, where they come out and they don't have the energy a team's supposed to have in the first quarter of any game, but especially in the playoffs. So I just think that is something that we can't have happen this year. Hopefully we've got enough guys we've got a lot of guys that we have way more veteran playoff presence on this team than we've had in the past couple years. We talked about all of the Suns guys, Campaign, Landry Shamet, Mikal Bridges. Like these guys have played deep minutes into the playoffs. So we have that experience, and hopefully they can implement that into the guys into the locker in the locker room. And then you won't have these, games where you're just coming out and it's just confusion half the time. Where it's like now it's 7 minutes left in the first quarter and we're down by 10 and everybody's looking around and their energy is off. So as long as we don't start off like that, we keep the energy up, and Tibs just doesn't let it happen. Like sometimes he kind of just like tries to let them figure it out. You got to pull a plug quick on that in the playoffs and get somebody else in there, get some new legs. A lot of those guys on the bench are waiting to sink their teeth into a lot of these defenses. So just let them run. You know what I mean? Like don't force the lineup that everyone's prepared for. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole league is prepared for that lineup all year. So don't force that lineup when everyone knows how to guard it. You know what I'm saying? Get some guys in there and just, make it flow a little bit better. A little long-winded, but my bad.
No, that's great. And that's the thing. And I think that's my biggest thing with Tibs is playoff time should be the time where you've worked certain things out that you didn't use all season, and you're willing to unload it and be like, y'all prepped for this, but we've been prepping for this. I don't think that's happened. I don't think Tibs has that wild card up his sleeve of things that they've executed so beautifully in practice that they've been waiting to unload, that clip when it comes to the playoffs. But that would be a nice thing to pull out of nowhere. But it's about 10 o'clock, so we're getting ready to wrap up. I just want to throw it roundtable to those on the panel right now. Do we take the series? If so, in how many games? I'll throw it to you first, S-God.
Yeah, like I said, if the Knicks play like the way we all think they should play, Knicks should take this series in 6. I'm giving Detroit a little but they really could take it in 5. The only reason I say 5 because of the effort level of the Knicks. They're not going to be playing 48 minutes all the time. That's their problem. They can't play a full game with all that energy, and that's what the biggest problem is. If they did, we can sweep the Pistons, but I say Knicks in 6.
Okay. All right. What about you, Apollo?
There's 2 answers for me, and I it's hard for me to deviate from that. But the first answer is if they play the way we're supposed to play, I think we can win in 5. This is a 5 game. I think there's a game in Detroit we can lose just off of their energy. It may be the first game in Detroit because it's the first time they've seen these guys play a playoff game in how long, or maybe the second game in Detroit because they lost the first one and so they're desperate before they get out of there. But I think if we play the way we're supposed to play, we can beat them in 5. I say Knicks in 5. But if we have that confusion that we've seen recently or all season really, and we don't get that in check, this can end up being a 6 to 7 game series, and I don't want to have a 6 to 7 series with the Pistons playing the way that they've been playing and then try to go into Boston. So.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Eru, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep it solid with the 6. I think the Knicks. I mean, Detroit has come into the Garden and we've been beating them, and then they creep up behind us, and then we start looking at each other, and next thing you know, Detroit is winning the game. You know what I'm saying? So it can get like that. You know, just because the playoffs is here doesn't automatically mean that certain guys are going to start, you know, elevating their play and that type of thing, man. So just, you know, just to respect that squad, because if you look, they do have a lot of talent on that squad. And they have a lot of things that giving the Knicks issues, you know, defensively and stuff like that. So, I mean, you know, to respect them as a professional club, I'll say 6 games, but I think the Knicks should be able to beat them. You know what I'm saying? They're going to make it hard. They're going to make us struggle every single game watching them, but I think they'll pull it out.
All right. And what are your thoughts, Mr. Fritz, before I give my closing thoughts?
I think the Knicks should close it out in 5. Of all people, Cat has something to prove in this series. He is the one person who there is no matchup on this in this series. If Cat does what he needs to do, it's a 5 or a sweep.
Okay. All right. So in my opinion, I think we should be able to take it in 5. And there's a huge factor to it, and it has to be that we let OG play the way that OG played in Brunson's absence, where he's able to actually be more than just a corner guy who plays defense. I think that if we go into our immature basketball ways of it just being straight up ISO ball of Jalen Brunson or Cat trying to score and do everything, I think it could go 7 games. And could go either way. That's the only way, is if we don't make this a team effort. If we see most games with 30 plus assists, then it should go 5 games at max. But if we let it go to where we're only getting 16 to 24 assists per game, then I think we actually get a rude awakening and go 7 games. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But I hope we actually let everybody play. That's the reason OG got the bag. That's the reason McHale got traded for 5 picks, is because we saw something in them and we need to let them actually contribute. So that's on the coach on what the game plan is for the playoffs. But for me, I'd rather see team ball and Jalen Brunson be the captain and be clutch when he needs to, and not because that's what he's going to do all game. But that's my thoughts. Appreciate you all in the chat. Appreciate all of you guys that were rocking with us. I don't understand why y'all do this, why you wait till like the last 10 minutes of the episode and all of a sudden the numbers start to skyrocket with every single word that I say about us leaving. But it is what it is. Hopefully y'all can watch it on replay, gang. Shout out once again to the Bardstown Bourbon Distillery Company and sending us these 2 bottles of Green River, being the official sponsor of the pre-playoff episode. Like I said earlier in the episode, we will be back next week, but it will be on Wednesday. We have a Thursday game next week, so we will be on Wednesday. If you guys can, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and invite somebody to the channel. Like I've said earlier in the season, this wasn't the network that we built this on last year, but it's where we're at now. We love being part of the KOT family, but we know that groundwork needs to be put in to get the numbers back to where they were. So if you can, hit a tweet, hit an Instagram post, whatever you got to do. Let's continue to build this. And S-God, bro, I appreciate you, bro, for coming in and being part of this. I loved hearing your takes. First time I've heard some of your thoughts. If you can, do us a favor and type your channel in the chat so that we can share it with everybody that's watching. And we definitely want you to come back and kick more of your thoughts. Any closing thoughts, Eru, Apollo?
Well, I just subscribed to your pod, Man Cave. I had to do a little searching, but you know, I found you, so I'm following you right now.
Oh man, thanks, man. Needed that, man. I need that, bro. Like I said, you put out all this content, man. These guys don't be subscribing, man. It's like, oh, they be bird watching. You know what I'm saying?
It's frustrating, man. But you know, if you like to do it, you do it because of that reason. You know,
of course, I do it all the time, bro.
Yep. Trust me, I've been there too, bro. It's just.
Yeah, I know.
it's just how it is. But yeah, for sure. Whenever you put in the chat, I definitely follow you and all
sir.
that. But in terms of course, thanks for coming up. In terms of the last words, I don't necessarily have any last words besides everything I've been saying. Let's hopefully these guys take it serious. And do what we expect them to. Hopefully the veteran leadership that we have in the locker room starts to show more than it has in the past. So go team.
Yeah. I like what Sean said too earlier, before he left. He said, like, no arguing and stuff. Everything that we've been arguing about all season, it kind of goes out the window. Right now, we need to get in the building and just support the team for, whatever, hang-ups we have for it. Just support and then just ride it out, because we in the playoffs and we just got to make the best of it.
Come together and support the team. That's it.
Yep. And S-God, I want to encourage you, bro. Like, this is not the first network I've been part of.
I already know. I know you. I know where you're from, bro. I know it all.
Yeah. And things went dirty and nasty there, and so having to start fresh was definitely a hard pill to swallow. But the ones that are real, the ones that rock with me, they're here, and I'm gonna be faithful to those that are here. And honestly, being able to rock with those that, understand, the whole reason we got together was because, Eru and Apollo watching their stuff and supporting them and just being like, yo, let's just freaking Thanos this thing, bro. Let's straight up like become, the Marvel Avengers and just build a squad. And so I want to encourage you, bro, keep going. There's going to be times where you're like, yo, this is not worth it. And sometimes it's not, sometimes like you have to go and be like, yo, get a text like 15 minutes before airtime where Eru's like, yo, bro, I'm not doing it today. I can't do it. Like, it's not happening. We just don't show up. And people text me like, yo, when's the show going on? I'm like, whoops, it ain't. It happens. But I encourage you, keep rocking, bro. Keep doing it. I'll be subscribing today, bro. And you always have an open platform here.
Facts.
No doubt, man. Thank you, guys.
Shout out to Fritz too. Fritz just put his links in the comments. I put my link also, man. So I'm actually rebranding on my channel. So I stopped doing content for maybe 30 days, a little bit over 30 days now. So I'm rebranding now. So I'm gonna start putting more stuff out on my channel soon too. So Die Hard next.
Definitely will go and subscribe to you guys too, man. So you already know.
Dope, man.
Well, appreciate everybody. Shout out to my KOT family, Mr. Fritz that's in the building, Mr. Lee Escobedo, my brother from another mother, Mr. Jay Ellis, the one who started it all at this channel, Queen Ebony, because she's just genius. I love Queen Ebony. And then our guy, Ryan, he actually got on an episode for the first time in a long time the other day. And it was a blast being able to talk Knicks with him. So shout out to the KOT family. Shout out to everyone that's grinding, doing things. Shout out to the Knicks Roundtable on Twitter, doing their thing. We appreciate you all. And so come and rock with us on Wednesday, 8:00, same place. And we will see you guys next week. So deuces. Appreciate y'all. We out. And how do I play this thing? I'm just going to end the stream. All right. Bye.
Peace.
Peace.
Pass the mic to a killer, he get the slaying.